Welcome, fellow freaks, geeks, and nostalgic peeps, to my channel, Slime and Slashers, where, yeah, we talk about everything from Nickelodeon slime to horror movie slashers, but plenty of stuff in between, mostly books. Today's video, it is yet another book-themed video. This will be my very first tier ranking, and I am starting off with a doozy. I am going to be tier ranking to be specific, every single vintage horror book that I've ever read.
All of the paperbacks from that I have read.
P.S. It's over 100, so stay right where you are. This might be a long video, we'll see. You may want a snack or a little drink to get cozy and settle in, and let's get ranking. Let's go to the short intro when we come back, then we'll start with the tier ranking. Let's go. Welcome back, guys! I am so hyped to do this tier ranking. I hope it goes well. Just to clarify, these are all the vintage horror books that I've ever read, aka you could also call a lot of these paperbacks from hell. Some of these, they were not mentioned in Grady Hendrix's nonfiction book, Paperbacks from Hell, but I basically generally just call, after having read his book, any vintage horror book a paperback from hell. And because of that, by the way, I decided to make my tier ranking levels in honor of Dante's Inferno and the 9 Circles of Hell. So we've got my top tier, my god tier, my favorite tier, and that is the center of hell, aka Satan. It's where Satan lives. So of course, the best paperbacks from hell would be, you know, the ones that Satan would most approve of, so I think that makes sense. Then my second favorite, these books would be great in my opinion, I would recommend them. It would be the 9th Circle of Hell, and these books are hot, 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 feeling hot, hot, hot. Or these books are hot, 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 you know, whatever. Then we've got the 8th Circle of Hell, which is steamy. These books are really good, I still recommend. They're just not a standout like a 9th Circle rated book or a Center of Hell rated book would be. And then we come to the 4th Circle of Hell. This is my second to last tier. The 4th Circle of Hell and Dante's Inferno, which I have not read, by the way. I just thought it would be appropriate for ranking paperbacks from hell. You know, it's all thematic. But apparently the 4th Circle of Hell is greed. To me, greed is kind of a mediocre type of sin, kind of a generic type of sin. There are probably a lot more fun ways to sin than just being greedy, so 4th Circle of Hell, that's kind of like just a whatevs, meh, it was okay book for me. And then we've got our lowest ranking, which would be the 1st Circle of Hell, aka Limbo, and these books I did not like. There's not a lot of positive things to say about those books, so that is my tier ranking. And I do want to clarify that I'm ranking all of the books I've read that are old school except for any Stephen King books. I don't really consider Stephen King to really be a obscure vintage horror writer. A lot of these other books are by obscure horror writers or lesser known horror writers. I have a few in here from Clive Barker. I have a few by some semi-well-known horror authors, but nobody to the level of Stephen King. So just clarifying, I have read a lot of King, but King is not on this list. I might do a future ranking of just King, but without further ado, let's get into the ranking of the paperbacks from hell. So starting off, already with a good one. An animal attack book, Worms by John Montague. This one is great. I'm going to put this in the 9th Circle of Hell. Hot, hot, hot. It's not an absolute favorite, but it's pretty damn close. What's Wrong with Valerie? I would say that is steamy. It's kind of like an unreliable narrator type of story. I'm going to make these smaller here so I can make 2 rows. I'm just using Canva, so hopefully that is okay. Wet Bones by John Shirley. This one's great, super splatterpunk, very crazy book. I would say that's 9th Circle of Hell worthy. Walkers by Graham Masterton. Graham Masterton, I can't even speak. Alright, so that one would be steamy. I would say, if I can remember correctly, I gave that a 4-star rating. Walkers is nuts. This dude, I think he buys an abandoned mental hospital, and I I think somebody gets sucked into a wall. You could kind of tell that if I raise up the picture. It's a dude being grabbed by a brick wall. I love that cover. A lot of these books I do own, by the way. I own all of these so far that we've gone through. I do not own Wait and See, though. Wait and See is by Ruby Jean Jensen, and I would say that one was just okay for me. I know my friend Alex read this one and really loved it. I just thought it was decent. It was alright. Wait and See, it's gonna go into whatevs. Even if I put something in whatevs, I would still recommend you guys, if you like vintage horror, to check it out, because you never know. You might like it more than me, just like my friend Alex, the Bookubus, did happen to like this one more than me, and that is perfectly okay. Usher's Passing, of course, by my favorite author, Robert McCammon. This one's kind of got Halloween-y fall vibes. I'm putting this one in Hot, 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 Ninth Circle of Hell. Toy Cemetery by William W. Johnstone. William W. Johnstone, spoiler, might wind up in my lowest ranked tier a lot, but not this one. This was the first book I ever read by him, and the insane factor is pretty high, so honestly, I'm gonna put it in steamy because I think you could read this once and, be happy that you read it because it's so out there and crazy. It's worth checking out because it's so ridiculous and kind of bad. I mean, it is bad, but it's kind of like a novelty type of bad, if that makes sense. By the way, if you're not a fan of vintage horror, don't just go rushing in and read any of these books. This is more of a tier ranking for people who already have read vintage horror and know that they like it. There are probably lots of triggers or possible triggers in these books, so please, please do your research. Check out a book's trigger warnings before you read it, especially a vintage book. Because a lot of these books, they were written at a different time. There's different kind of language, different sensibilities, etc., etc. It really might not be for everyone. I really, really want to stress that, so please, please be careful. And don't just read something because I talked about it, because I guarantee you I have no triggers, and I'm just like, what ifs? I'm so effed up. So, you and me, we might be really different, and that's okay. That's why I want to advise people to be careful. Next up, Toady. Alright, here we go. My first book in my God tier, or Satan tier. Yes, it's my top tier. Toady is an all-time favorite. Love, love, love. Mark Morris is one of my favorite authors. He's the author of Toady, and his books are going to be reprinted in ebook, in new editions, and in audio coming soon. Alright, Thor. Thor is an amazing book. It's not an animal attack. You might assume that from the dog on the cover. The dog is our main protagonist, and he's such a good boy. So he is going into the Ninth Circle of Hell. Oh, I'm sorry, Thor, I'm putting you in hell. It's a good kind of hell, I promise. They Thirst. They Thirst is a really entertaining vampire book, at least to me. I know I like this one more than my friend Alex. I'm going to put this in the Eighth Circle of Hell, steamy. Wolf's Hour. I love Wolf's Hour. I kind of want to put this in God tier. I really do like The Wolf's Hour. That's my favorite author, again, Robert McCammon. The Uninvited, another William W. Johnstone. This one, once you read one Johnstone, you kind of read them all. There was a crazy, hilarious orgy scene in this book, so I guess because of that scene, I'll put it in whatevs, the Fourth Circle of Hell. I'm not going to get Johnstone into the, last tier yet, but I guarantee you he'll be arriving there at some point. The Traveling Vampire Show. Loved. Absolutely loved. In fact, let's do this. We're gonna have to make these smaller. I'm having a lot of books rated hot, 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 so we're gonna have to make it tiny. So yeah, The Traveling Vampire Show, not as crazy as Richard Lehman's other books, and Richard Lehman is an author you should definitely be wary of checking out. He is really not for everyone, but I really enjoyed this one. It's a coming of age, but there is some craziness at the very end. The Sandman. The Sandman is a very unique, weird slasher, not your typical slasher, in that it's more of a character study of a killer, and you don't even know whether or not to believe him. I'm kind of torn between put it in the Ninth Circle or in Satan level. I think it's Satan level for me. I've read this years ago now, and it still sticks with me. The Pack by David Fisher, an animal attack book that I did not love. I'm gonna put that in whatevs. It could have been better. It was alright, though. It was okay. And I really actually like Thomas Tyrone, but the other, which is up next, I'm also going to put in whatevs. The ending was awesome, but the rest of the book kind of floundered, in my opinion. It's not one of my favorite classics, even though it is famous for a good reason. Alright, The Night Runners by Joe R. Lansdale. I wish I owned this edition, but I do not. This one was a really good book. Super splattery, extreme kind of, so beware. I'll put that in steamy. Alright, next up, The Mask by Dean Koontz. Boring, boring, boring. It's definitely going in whatevs. I'm not a big fan of Koontz, but I do like, he has some Christmas picture books that I've liked, so that is something that I definitely recommend if you haven't checked out those books by him. But his adult fiction, his adult horror, I'm not sure if I love. Alright, here we come to another Animal Attack, and this is an official Paperbacks from Hell reprint. As I mentioned earlier, Valancourt is known for their Paperbacks from Hell line. So keep in mind that all of these books, they're not all reprinted by Valancourt as a part of this line, but this one is. And this is my god tier. I love The Nest. Not everybody does. I like it more than most, but a dude has sex with some leaves, come on! If that's not Satan level, what is? It's Satan worthy. The Keepsake by Paul Husson. Great Irish-themed horror book. Some of it takes place in Ireland. A woman comes back with an Irish stone, and it may be an evil stone, and it causes things to happen. Love, love, love. A book I just read this year in January, The Light at the End by Skip Inspector. Obsessed with this freaking book. Love it so much. God tier. Or Satan tier. I don't know. It's weird calling it God tier when it's actually Satan. It's very uncomfortable, whatevs. Anyway, it's a favorite book of all time now, even though I just read it a few months ago. The Hellbound Heart, love, steamy. Oh, I'm sorry, not steamy. Hot, hot, hot. Of course, The Hellbound Heart is the book that the movie Hellraiser is based off of. Alright, The House Next Door, a slow burn old school horror from 1978 by Anne Rivers Siddons, or Siddons. I'm putting that in steamy. I think I gave it a 4-star or a 4.5 star. The Eyes of the Beast, I'm so torn on this. It technically could go in whatevs, but there were some crazy scenes, including these moths biting a dude's dick up, and it was hilarious, and then he gets freaking healed by some mermaid lady. Some parts drag, so it's not perfect, but because of certain scenes and certain craziness factors, I guess I'm gonna put it in steamy. Honestly, it's probably whatevs for most people, but this is my ranking, and I'm putting it in steamy. Alright. The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum, a very emotional read, very hard-hitting read, not for everyone, based on a true life story, really hard to read, very sad, very, very sad, but it is so well written, and I would put it up in my top tier. So that's going in the Satan level. Same thing here, a classic, The Exorcist. I love both the book and the movie, and this was a book that I read back when I didn't even like to read, and I still enjoyed it. I didn't consider myself a big reader when I read it, but yeah, it totally worked for me, and it's going into Satan tier. Very appropriate, since we are dealing with possession, you know? Alright, The Elementals by Michael McDowell. Michael McDowell is one of the most well-known old-school horror authors. I honestly think he gets a lot more of attention than a lot of other obscure horror authors. I really like The Elementals. It's probably my favorite book I've read from him, so I'll put this one in hot, hot, hot. And actually, it's kind of appropriate because The Elementals, the story itself, you feel hot while reading it because the setting is this freaking beach area and it is so hot. You could feel the heat in the story. It's definitely a great summer book if you're looking for something to read for summer. Another great summer book, and even though this is the complete drive-in, I'm only going to rank the first drive-in book because that is the only one I have read. This is by Joe R. Lansdale. There are 3 books. I've only read the first, but the first was really great. And I will put it on my second tier here. Hot, hot, hot. Alright, this is my least favorite William W. Johnstone book. There's absolutely no redeeming qualities, no fun elements at all to keep it from going in the last category. Bitch, you last. You go into limbo. The devil's laughter. Who's laughing now? Not William W. Johnstone, because he dead. No, I'm sorry, but also he's last. The Devil's End. Problematic stuff in this book, but man, the ending is insane. I'm gonna put it in steamy. Not perfect. Definitely recommend people taking caution. Alright, The Cook by Harry Cressing. Weird book. Old school, kinda slow. I did like elements though, but I think it could have been better. I'm putting that in whatevs, The Fourth Circle of Hell. The Cipher by Kathy Koja. Wonderful book. torn between putting it in my top tier. For now, I might change my mind, but I'm going to put it in the second to top. And that is, as you know, Hot, Hot, Hot. Very weird book. One of the weirdest books ever. Very gritty. It's kind of about a hole. A fun hole of sorts, and they stick different things in it, and they kind of go downhill up and become obsessed with this hole. Unhealthily obsessed. The Cellar by Richard Lehman. I really liked The Cellar, but yeah, I'm gonna put it in steamy. Lots of people don't like it. It is weird. It's not the best. I had a great time reading it. Whatevs. It is what it is. The Cats. One of my least favorite animal attack books. Ollie and I don't agree on animal attacks because my friend Ollie from the channel Criminale, he likes the cats and he hates the nest. And as you can see, I'm of the reverse opinion. I love the nest and I hate the cats. So yeah, cats, really boring. Almost nothing awesome or entertaining about it. There was like one entertaining scene, but even that didn't really save it from getting a great rating. Alright, next up, The Cartoonist. I love this book. It is a slow burn of sorts. It could have been a little bit better. I'm gonna put that in steamy. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm skipping ones. The Breeze Horror. Another really fun book. This is such a unique zombie story, a very unique take on a zombie story. I love it. There's even a scene like with a boardwalk carnival type of area, if I'm remembering correctly. It's been a couple of years. I'm putting it in my second to top tier. It is a standout for me. And if you like zombie books but you're looking for something different, it is extreme, but it's worth checking out if you like zombie stories and you're kind of looking for something that is not your normal, typical, same old zombie story. Here we have another classic book, The Auctioneer. It is a slow burn of sorts. I'm going to put this in steamy. Very well written book. Liked it a lot. Alright, what is next? The Amulet by Michael McDowell. Another book that's going in my steamy pile. I liked... That sounded weird. Ignore it. Ignore it. I am going to put it in the steamy level, and it's because I liked the elementals a little bit more, although I did have fun with the Amulet. The Abyss, just read this last month, wasn't the best. To be honest, it was a little slow. There were some elements I liked, but could have been a lot better. Honestly, it could almost go in the limbo category, but I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt. It did have some cool parts, including the end, and some imagery, so I'll put it in the whatevs. You know, still, I think most people would put it down here, but like again, there were some things I liked. Swan Song by Robert McCammon. I'm gonna put this into Hot, Hot, Hot. Such Nice People, a Christmas family drama story. Rare, hard to find this book. I loved this book, so not only does it have a great cover, but I felt the story was wonderful too. Again, it is a slow burn of sorts, but once you get towards the end, it ramps up. And oh my god, the shed scene. The shed scene. It is going in my top tier. Satan level. Definitely a favorite. Stinger, I would put that in steamy. It's by Robert McCammon. It's an alien type of story, alien invasion story. Stitch by Mark Morris. Again, you guys should check out Mark Morris. Be on the lookout for his new editions coming from Macabre Inc. And I'm going to put this in my top tier because Mark Morris is amazing. More people should check him out. Slugs by ya boy Sean Hudson. I'm going to put this in steamy. Not perfect for me. Some people like it more, but I had a good time with it. Spectre. Spectre by Stephen Laws was a really wild time. There's a great scene with like a mannequin. I'm putting this in my hot, hot, hot second to top tier. Skin by Kathy Koja. I even liked that more than The Cipher. I'm going to put that in the hot, hot, hot. It was a 5-star read for me. So, you know, hot, hot, hot. 5 stars could be here. 4.5s could be here. Definitely Satan level is 5-star level. Steamy could be 4, 4.5. Whatevs is probably 3, 3.5. Some cases 2.5. Really mostly 3s though. And Limbo will be anything lower than a 3 for sure for me, if you're trying to see how this relates to my actual ranking levels. Alright. Slimer. It has nothing to do with this creature on the cover, in case you're wondering. That creature does not appear. But it is a fun story. There is a really annoying guy in this story, though, which I think would turn some people off. But I had a good time with this one. I'll put it in my steamy level. Here we've got Rosemary's Baby. I'm gonna get so much hate for this. I did not love Rosemary's Baby. I like the movie a lot. The book, I was just like, whatevs. I'm putting it in my whatevs. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Off season, love. Off season is going into hot, hot, hot. It could go into my Satan level, but I'll just put it in hot, hot, hot for now. We'll see. I might rearrange some, but these are like automatic, spur of the moment where these are going. Nightwing, I'm torn on Nightwing. For now, I'm going to put it in whatevs. It was a high 3.5. Same with Night Warriors. Great scene where Eel destroys this dude. This dude's peen, but I'm gonna put it on whatevs for now. It's a high 3.5. It technically could go into steamy, but I'm not sure. Night Things is kind of like House of Leaves, but more old school and makes more sense than House of Leaves, but less mind-blowing, less impactful than less impactful than House of Leaves. So I'm putting it here in whatevs. Next up, Night of the Moonbow by Thomas Cryon. I like this one better than the other. Putting this in steamy. It is a slow burn. Most people would not like it. I'm just telling you right now. I know this for a fact. Night in the Lonesome October. Honestly, one of my favorite Richard Laymans. Going into hot, hot, hot. I like it a lot. Like, quite a lot. Night Brothers by Sidney Williams. I'll put it in steamy. Very unique take on a vampire story. It was a high 3.5 for me. Nightblood, great, fast-paced, fun vampire story. This is going in the second to top tier. Definitely a paperback from Hell reprint you should check out, especially if you like action-packed novels that are fun. Mystery Walk by Robert McCammon, top tier. One of my favorite Robert McCammon books ever. Love it. Love it so much. Moonbane by Alice Antonio. Come on. Alright, Moonbane. Steamy. Werewolves on the moon. Werewolves from the moon. They come and invade. I'm gonna put steamy, not perfect, but it was a lot of fun. Same thing with Monastery. Definitely had some old problematic elements, including use of the R word and really terrible mentality when it comes to mental disability. But the action, it's such a shame that those elements were in there because the action and the actual story was really wonderful. It's just such a shame that it had some of those other outdated elements. It was, from a not good character, but still, it made me feel weird. But it's a great vampire story. Very different type of vampire story. Midnight's Lair, a Richard Layman book that I really enjoy. I think I'm going to put it into steamy. All right, here you go. Next up, Maynard's House. Not everyone likes this book, including my friend Andrew. I'm just giving you grief, Andrew. It's totally cool. A lot of people had some problems with this book. I know my friend Kitty didn't like it either. That is totally okay. It is a slow burn of sorts, and there is this weird thing with, like, a younger girl where the guy's like, oh, I like her. But I don't think it's really literal. I think there's something more going on. I can't get into it without getting into spoilers, but I'm going to put this in hot, hot, hot. I like this book a lot. Really good winter read, very good cold read, but it wouldn't be for everybody, just to reiterate. All right, let's go play at the Adamses, and this is a very controversial book, disturbing, based on the same case that The Girl Next Door is based on, and there are some shocking moments. I would say if this was an anger tier ranking, this book is probably the book that made me the angriest. But I'm going to put it in whatevs. The author was trying to be very philosophical at times, and it just didn't hit. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I guess it's worth reading to see what you think about it. It is hard to read, but it still makes me angry. I mean, because it made me angry, wouldn't that be effective? And then maybe it should be in the 8th Circle of Hell, the steamy level, but I don't know. I'm still... Years later, and I'm still torn on that book. Joyride, a fun little slasher book, steamy. And it's one of the rare old school slashers. You don't find a lot of old school slasher books. Jaws, I'm sorry, but Jaws is going into whatevs because Jaws as a book is pretty damn bad, honestly. And I'm sorry if you're out there and you like Jaws, but I think the movie, in this case, is 1,000 times better. Let's see if we need to make this much smaller later. Alright. So yes, I'm not a huge Jaws fan. Jaws 2, same idea. Not my favorite. Going into whatevs. Are they worth reading? Yeah, if you like Shark Attack books. Jaws the Revenge. Let's put this one into Steamy. There were some elements that I found really fun in Jaws the Revenge. I also like the movie, and everyone hates the movie, so, you know, assume what you will about my taste because of that, but it is what it is. I loved Into the Fire. It was balls to the wall insane. Most people would hate this book. I'm not recommending, but I loved it, and I'm putting it into hot, hot, hot. Please don't read it, though. Please just don't read it. House of Illusions by Ruby Jean Jensen. At times this was too much of a slow burn, but I love the carnival setting. I thought she did a great job with the carnival setting, so I'm going to put it in Steamy. Horrorween by Al Sarantonio. This was a great, really enjoyable read that I just read last October. Lots of atmosphere. Very slow burn, though. Super slow burn. So I'll put it here in Steamy. Hellhound. This is one of my favorite books of all time. It is definitely going up into Satan level. We've got an evil dog. We're in Baxter, that's the dog. We're in his head for part of the book. And it's wonderful. Baxter is cold. He is calculating. He talks without emotion, and I love that. It's just a very fascinating story, and I feel like Ken Greenhalgh did an amazing job writing as a canine. Like, he made me believe that I was actually reading the thoughts of a sinister hound. Harvest Home, also an all-time favorite of mine. If you like folk horror and don't mind a slow burn, you might enjoy it. Perfect for fall time, September or October. It would be a great read. Halo, I wish I liked this more. It could have been a lot better. I did really like the Louisiana references. This would be a high 3.5. So this is going in whatevs, but it wasn't too bad. Grim Memorials. I really liked Grim Memorials. It was extreme. It was ridiculous. Snow White gets banged by the 7 dwarfs. But anyway, let's not get into it. I'm putting that in hot, hot, hot. Extreme, but it still had a story behind it, which is very rare with extreme type of books. Nelfs. This is my God tier, or my Satan tier. I love Nelfs. Oops, come back over here. Gotta resize this dude. Alright, let's resize this whole row. Where are we? Gone South. Ugh, Gone South is such a great book. One of my favorite Robert McCammon books. It's barely a horror book. Same thing with, I think Wolf's Hour is kind of more of a thriller. So I'm saying these are paperbacks from hell and vintage horror, but Robert McCammon, all of his works walk the line of not being pure horror, except for books like Stinger and They Thirst. Those lean more horror, so does Usher's Passing. But Gone South, not really horror. Mystery Walk has some horror elements, but again, not really horror. Same with Wolf's Hour, mostly thriller, but still great nonetheless. Giella, an animal attack book I thought was decent. It was fun, high 3.5. Not my favorite, though. Ghost Train by Stephen Laws. Fun, slow burn, lots of great imagery. Putting it in the 8th Circle of Hell. Ghost Story. Slow burn, great cold vibes, but I particularly loved it. It's going into my second to top tier. Hot, hot, hot. Geek Love. Geek Love is one of my favorite books of all time. If you love carnival books and disturbing books, you might like it. It is a little bit literary, so it wouldn't be for everyone, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Funland by Richard Lehman. You might think that I'm a stan for Richard Lehman, but that is not the case. There are some books that I don't like by Richard Lehman, and I am critical of him. This is one of them. I did not like Funland, but you know what? It's gonna go here, whatevs, because it's not worthy of being in the final level. There's actually a Richard Lehman book I like less than Funland. Funland, there was at least this guy named Poppin' Socket, or wait, what was his name? Frickin' Poppin' Balls or something. It's very gross, whatever his name was. It was ridiculous, and his name alone is worth being, you know, above the last level. Flowers in the Attic. I just read this, and you know what? I'm making a crazy determination that I think this is top tier for me. This is a new top tier book for me. Alright, let's put you into the top tier. Welcome, Flowers in the Attic. You're a new fave of all time. Alright. Flesh by Richard Lehman. Thought it was decent. A lot of fun. Not perfect. Like a lot of other Richard Lehman novels better, but it was fun. Putting it in steamy. Feast by Graham Masterton. Oh, I had such high hopes for this book. It is fun, but I think it could have been even more fun. I don't know, but the ending really went there. You know what? We're gonna put it in steamy. It's kind of low on the steamy scale, but there are some elements in this book that are bonkers, crazy, a lot of fun. Familiar Spirit by Lisa Tuttle. I love Lisa Tuttle. I'm excited to read more by Lisa Tuttle. This will be in my top tier. She is an amazing writer. This is a possession story, but it has its insane moments, even though Lisa Tuttle's a great writer. She's not afraid to go there sometimes and really get wild. Fear. Fear. I'm torn between putting it in the top or here. I'm going to put it here for now, but part of me wants to put it in the top. We'll revisit that, but my gut says here, in the Ninth Circle of Hell. Falling Angel. That one's a great one, too. Second to top tier. Great detective type of story. New York detective trying to solve this case with occult elements. Next up, Exquisite Corpse by Billy Martin, also known as Poppy Z. Bright. I will put this in the second to top tier. Endless Night. This is my top tier Richard Lehman book. It will always be my favorite Richard Lehman book, probably. I have more to read by him, but this is my favorite so far. And it was the first one I ever read. And it's going in my top tier. Am I the equivalent of Satan for liking this book so much? Perhaps. Yes. It's sad, but yes. Elizabeth, great book. Ken Greenhall, aka Jessica Hamilton. He wrote under that name. It's his mother's name. Anyway, almost top tier, but I'm putting it into the second top tier. Hot, hot, hot. Very entertaining book. Doppelganger. Was very disappointed. It's going into whatevs. I just thought it could have had a lot more action. And it's funny because Leon, the paperback maniac from the channel Paperback Mania, read that and liked it. And I was surprised I did not agree with him, because I agree with a lot of his opinions, but I didn't agree with that one. Drawing Blood, steamy, decent, but not my favorite of Billy Martin's, aka Poppy Z. Bright's. Death Song. I have to resize again. One of my favorite vintage horror books. So bonkers, off the wall, ridiculous. There are freaking song battles, sing-offs, whatever you want to call it. It's wonderful. It's like dueling, but with songs. Disturbed Not the Dream. I almost DNF'd it, but I'm glad I didn't because the ending paid off for me. But was it perfect? No. For a lot of the book, I was kind of over the family drama. It's gonna go into whatevs. But it was a 3.5 when I thought initially I was gonna DNF, but I stuck it through, and I was glad I did. Dearest. Another disagreement between how I feel about a book and how Ollie feels about a book. I just thought this was whatevs. I thought it could have been a lot better. I really liked it at first. Then it got really repetitive. It's kind of tongue-in-cheek, black humor. But it just repeated itself too much. Darker Than Night. I have to also put this in whatevs. I thought the horror could have been ramped up. It could have done a little bit different things when it came to haunted house stories. So, to me, it didn't really do anything new, although I am still wanting to read more by Owl Going Back, so I'm not writing him off. Cover by Jack Ketchum. He has been really high up in my tier ranking, his other books, Off Season and The Girl Next Door, but sadly, Cover was a huge miss for me. I'm putting it in limbo. I really hated the main character. I didn't like him at all. I couldn't get invested. I did feel for this military guy who was living in the woods, who's our other main character, and I felt for him, but even that couldn't save it, so limbo. Alright, Childgrave by Ken Greenhall. Ken Greenhall is like an all-time favorite of mine. I really love his writing a lot. So this is going into hot, 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 but I liked it more than Elizabeth. It almost could go into top tier, but I didn't like it as much as Hellhound. It's a super slow burn. And there's a really weird dad in it. Like, the dad is so weird, but, it was still entertaining. Alright. where are we? Chain Letter by Ruby Jean Jensen. Some of Ruby Jean Jensen's I'm torn. It's more quiet, more cozy, but I always want something more. So it's really kind of on the low end of steamy, a lot of her books for me. Part of me wants to put Chain Letter into whatevs. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. It was lacking. There were some entertaining parts, but same thing with Sellers. I liked the other John Shirley book I read a lot more, which was Wet Bones. Sellers was okay. It takes place around Halloween, but it's actually like hot. So you don't get the fall vibes. In fact, they talk about how it's unseasonably hot at the time, so I'm like, boo, this sucks. I didn't know I would have this many whatevs. I thought I would have a lot less. That is pretty surprising to me so far. Alright. Cabal by Clive Barker. I would say this is steamy. I liked the book even better than the movie, and I used to love the movie, but after reading the book, I kind of like the book a little bit more. Burnt Offerings. I rushed through this book. I really should give it a better chance. It's on the low side of steamy for me, but it still had some unique elements to it, but definitely not my favorite. Books of Blood, probably the best short story collection I've ever read. I'm putting it in hot, hot, hot. Book of the Damned. It's so bonkers. This is my favorite book by D.A. Fowler, and I'm putting it into my Satan tier. It has everything. Dark humor. It has disturbing elements, wild plot twists, gore, grossness, emotion, bleakness. It has everything. I wouldn't just recommend it to just anybody, though. Not every reader would love it. Black Christmas. Sadly, I'm gonna have to put this into whatevs. I thought it could have been a lot better. It was somewhat of a letdown for me, and that is sad. Very sad for me to say. Here you go. Body Rides. This is my least favorite Richard Lehman book so far. It was pretty boring to me. I hated the dialogue, and I was just ready for it to be over. The first Richard Lehman book that ever dragged for me, besides Funland. Funland dragged a little bit. Body Rides dragged a lot, so it has to go into limbo, which is quite sad, because I usually enjoy Richard Lehman. He's fun for me. I know not everybody likes Richard Lehman, including, of course, Will Erickson, who I always laugh when I read his articles about, how he hates Richard Lehman. It makes me laugh so hard. In a good way, not in a mean way. Because it's great to see the other side of the coin. I totally get why people wouldn't like his work. I know a lot of people who don't, but I, for some reason, am twisted as hell and do like his work. Next, we've got Black Cat, which I'm putting in the hot, hot, hot. Now I'm going to put it in steamy. It's a really good animal attack. It's got a lot of standout elements, but I'll put it in steamy. Beware. Beware was just okay for me. Was not my favorite Richard Lehman book. Ball, I actually think people are harsher on this book than they should be. This is a great book. I really loved it. The ending dragged a little bit, but towards, the middle to the end, it dragged a little, but still a lot of fun. Bats, a few funny scenes, but pretty terrible. I would not go out of my way to read William W. Johnstone. He's always putting his political beliefs into his books. Azarius. Cropping this because it's a weird picture. I own this book. Should have just held it up, but here we go. I'm putting this in whatevs. It was okay. I have loved Sidney Williams before. His book, Nelfs, is up here, but this one by Sidney Williams, it was just okay. Ash Wednesday by Chet Williamson. If you have not heard Chet Williamson's voice, you should check out an audiobook that is narrated by him, because he is amazing when it comes to audiobook narration. This is a super slow burn. It's barely horror, but it deals with grief and these passed away people, like the images of these passed away people appearing in this small town, and why is it happening, and how it affects the people living in the town. I would say it's steamy, but on the lower end of steamy. All Heads Turn When the Hunt Goes By. For a historical set book, this was really enjoyable for me. Not perfect. Some outdated things for sure, but the story itself was pretty enjoyable. I'm putting All Heads Turn When the Hunt Goes By into steamy. Nest of Nightmares. One of my favorite short story collections, just behind Books of Blood Volume 1. It's going into Hot, Hot, Hot. Wait, is that all of them? Whoa! I did this in under an hour? That's 117 books, I believe. Alright. So, let us take a look at this, if you can see here. We've got quite a bit. The most filled up level is my steamy level here, and then second most, it's kind of tied, it looks like. No, I think Hot 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 is second most, then Whatevs, then Satan level, and then Limbo. So pretty varied where things fell for me, but I've enjoyed a lot of my journey with vintage horror. Not everyone does. Again, vintage horror is not for everybody, but it's definitely for me. I love it so much. It's a joy. I love to find little hidden gems where, you know, a lot of people haven't read the book. I feel like Death Song is one of those books where not a lot of people have read it, but it's amazing. It's like, oh yeah, this is crazy. I'm so glad I read this. And, you know, it's just a cool feeling when you have that type of experience. So I can't wait to keep finding more vintage gems, and hopefully not a lot more duds, but I'm sure I will. Oh, and I actually did forget a few. I forgot The Reckoning. I forgot 3. The Reckoning by Ruby Jean Jensen is definitely my favorite book by Ruby Jean Jensen. I'll put it under steamy. It is not perfect. These kids come back after being gone for many years, and these kids could be sinister. They're not how they were when they first disappeared. Let's just say that. The ending left a lot to be desired, but again, it had great gore. It was the best gore that I've read from Ruby Jean Jensen. The Reaping by Bernard Taylor, that one wasn't my favorite. It was okay. I'd put it as like a high 3.5. I mostly enjoyed it. Just because it's in Whatevs doesn't mean that I hated it. It just means, you know, it was okay for me. The Rats. I actually don't like The Rats very much compared to most people. I thought it left a lot to be desired, at least for me, so I'm putting that in Whatevs. Could have been better. It was about a 3-star for me, so that one goes there. Alright, and now we are finished. So now let's take a look at the entire thing. Have you read any of these books? Do you disagree where I rank them in my tier level? Let me know down in the comments below. I'm definitely eager to see what you guys think. And do you have any vintage book suggestions for me that you think I should dig into next or sooner rather than later? Please, please leave that below because I'm always looking for vintage recs because it's one of my favorite types of books to read. Thank you so much for watching this very long video, guys. I truly appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed the tier ranking. I plan on doing another one very soon about slasher books, so stay tuned for that. But for this time, that is it for me. Till next time, you know what you can do. Keep on killing it. Bye, guys.